أيها الرحيم وعن المجيد قال صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول من بلغ في سبيل الله فهو له درجة في الجنة ومن رمى بسهم في سبيل الله فهو له عز محرر ومن شاب سيفا في الإسلام نورا وضياء رواه الإيمان وروى أبو داود الفصل الأول والنسائي الفصل الثاني والترمذي الثاني والثالث وفي روايتهما من شاب شيبة في سبيل الله فله في الإسلام وانظر كل السننين يلا بكل سيد عيد النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم سيدة أو in the path of Allah for him is a ring of Jannah. And whoever throw an arrow in the path of Allah for him is a reward. Whoever is Islam to Islam for him it will be a night in the day of Qiyam. It will buy to Swag Iman and Abu Dawood. And take person Awan in the side, person time, and take الفصل الثاني الفصل الثالث there رواية it comes bring the part of Allah excel for Islam.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وعن أبي نجيب قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول من بلغ بسهم في سبيل الله فهو له درجة في الجنة ومن رمى بسهم في سبيل الله فهو له عد محرر شاب شيبة في الإسلام كانت نورا يوم القيامة. رواه البيهقي في شعب الإيمان وروى أبو داود الفضل الأول والنسائي الأول والثاني والترمذي والثاني والثالث في روايتهما من شاب شيبة في سبيل الله بدل في الإسلام. Sulaimi radiallahu ta'ala who narrated that he had Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam say that he who shoots an arrow and he hits the target of human slave, and he who grows in Islam old age, right, and he dies, it's a light for him on the day of Qiyamah. According to another version, instead of grows old in Islam, it is grows old in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's also a fadl, right, by itself. And if anyone grows old having iman in Islam, right, or it's a sign of old age, that's a token of him being a happy life, right? Not only here, but in the next world, if Allah wishes, right? The what can be greater than a person spending his entire life in the in the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right up to the end. If it's reported by one person by the name of Abu Yazid, he says that it was a pious person, righteous person. This is one day he looked into the mirror, and when he saw couldn't see the signs of that old age in his face, then he mentioned something as ظهر الشيب ولم يظهر العيب وما أدري ما في الغيب. He mentioned that. Praise be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What old age has shown itself, and no shortcoming yet has manifested itself. In other words, he was still, fine and healthy. And وما أدري ما في الغيب. And I do not know what is there in the unseen. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وعن أبي هريرة رضي الله تعالى عنه قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا سبق إلا في نصر أو كف أو حافر. رواه الترمذي وأبو داود والنسائي. Sayyidina Abu Huraira radiallahu ta'ala who narrated that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said its stakes are never permitted for anything but for three things. That is archery, camel racing, and also horse racing. Right? So we find the word in the hadith here which is do sabaq, right, refers to the takings from bets. Understand? So it is evident from this hadith that it is not allowed to bet or to use any receipts except for three things mentioned in the hadith, that is these three which you mentioned, horse riding, camel, and what's that? However, there are some jurists and fuqaha which expand the scope around those things, obviously, which is useful for jihad purposes, or to strengthen one for jihad. So they take it a bit further than these three, which means like donkey riding, mule riding, elephant. Some even take it further than that also, that the racing between men, racing each other, and placing a bet or throwing stones. So anything which obviously which make a person physically fit in order for one, or as an encouragement to to participate in jihad also, they have also included in this year. However, betting besides these things will not be allowed, right? So once betting will be allowed, or how will it be allowed? So for example, like we mentioned very clearly, to understand that it's haram to gamble, right? Or to place bets, right? Or on a contest or racing, understand, obviously we understand it, that is a profit or is a loss, right? So that's what gambling is. So if a ruler, for example, anyone else in authority, so two people they place bets, right? If a third person offers himself, to give the winner some money or property, whatever it is, then only it becomes halal. That's called the muhallil. We'll do it in the next hadith, right? Or if, for example, there's two people that want to race, and one of the two says that I will give something, right? I'm gonna give you so much, or whatever the case may be, if you win. But if you lose, you don't have to give anything. So that also will be permissible. Or two people both place bets, or both give something, that will not be permissible unless a third person comes, and he comes in and says, not, if he wins, he takes everything, and if he loses, he gives nothing. So he's called a muhallil. So basically, that is making the whole situation halal. However, if that is not the case, then it is gambling, which means it is not permissible.
عنه رضي الله تعالى عنه قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من أدخل فرسا المسبقة فلا خير فيه وإن كان لا أن يسبق ولا باس فيه رواه في شرح السنة وفي رواية أبي داود قال من أدخل فرسا بين فرسين يعني هو لا يأمر أن يسبق وليس بكمال ومن أدخل فرسا بين فرسين وقد أمن أن يسبق فهو في النار. That Umar Abu Hurairah, may Allah please with him, he said that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said just the horse, the two horses, and if he's not sick, like you will be go to the city. But if he's not sitting, there is no narrated in Sharh Sunnah, in the one that whoever enters a horse, the two horses, if he's not sitting, that means then there is no something. But whoever enters a horse, two horses, what is sitting that means that is
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وعن ابي هريره رضي الله تعالى عنه قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من ادخل فرسا بين فرسين فان كان يؤمن ان يسبق فلا خير فيه فان كان لا يؤمن ان يسبق فلا باس به. رواه في شرح السنه. وفي روايه ابي داود قال من ادخل فرسا بين فرسين يعني وهو لا يامن ان يسبق فليس بقمار. ومن ادخل فرسا بين فرسين وقد أمن أن يسبق فهو قمار. That is Sayyidina Abu Huraira radiallahu ta'ala anhu narrated that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said that if anyone puts a horse with two other horses, right, and he is certain that it will win, then there is not any good in it. But if he is not sure that it will go ahead or win, then there is no harm in it. So according to another version, he said that if anyone puts a horse with two other horses, while he is not sure that it will win the other two, then it is not gambling. But if anyone puts a horse with horses and is certain that it will overtake them and win them, then this would be considered to be gambling. So as we mentioned there, that if anyone enters his horses with other two horses, right, then in this kind, this will be called tahleel, right? In other words, the third person will be making the whole scenario, yeah, lawful. So, for example, if we find that we got Zaid, yeah, and Abu Bakr, right? So both of them places a wager, for example, right, on their horses, right? So that's obviously, as we understand, will be not permissible, right? If both Zaid and Abu Bakr places bets, right? So now, for example, now the third person Khalid comes here and he intervenes in this whole scenario, which means now he enters, right, with the condition that if he's going to win, he gets the money. But if he loses, he doesn't have to give anything. So which means now he's making the whole situation then correct, right? You won't pay anything there. And like we said there, the horse that he gives also should be, or some ulama in fact mentioned that the muhallil, right? Obviously muhallil is the third person that makes the whole scenario halal. So he should enter such a horse which is as good as, or nearly as good as the other horses. If he knows obviously that these horses are going to, like outrun that two horses, like we say, there's no khairin, which means then he's not actually fixing the whole situation or making it, halal. He has to put the horse, or if it's a horse that he doesn't know whether the horse will win or lose, you understand? Then that will be fine. Right. نعم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وعن عمران بن حسين قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: لا جلب ولا جنب. زاد يحيى في حديثه رواه أبو داود والنسائي والترمذي مع زيادة في باب القسم. عمران بن حسين رضي الله تعالى عنه related that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, there's no jalab and there's no janab. Right? So one of the narrators, Yahya, added this narration that في Rehan, that in racing horses, right, for a wager. So Jalab refers to the zakah or the annual charity, due charity, the collector, positioning himself at a distance from where the people lives, right, to bring to him their properties for valuation. So they have to go to him to bring the properties for valuation, and then that's how it's collected. Janab, on the other hand, generally also means the property holders take away their animals far away from the collector. So which means how the tax collector or the zakah collector have to go to them for valuation. However, in terms of racing, as we mentioned this hadith, then it would mean that now it's about that is makruh that we mentioned, all right. In terms of hadith, that racing horses chalab, refers to a contest or a contestant that gets another to follow his horse, right? And shout at the horse, to pick up speed, that to be considered to be jalab in terms of horse racing. Right? So a person, shouts at the horse or follows the horse to shout at him to pick up speed, jalab. And janab in terms of horse racing, that would mean that a person enters another horse next to his horse. So whenever his horse becomes tired, then he can just, jump on that horse like that. Right? So that's the hadith, inshallah.